Free market capitalism is a false religion. In my recent posts, I've described how this false religion has its own moral philosophy and priestly class. But a religion needs more than mystery and theology. What a religion needs more than anything is followers. This is part 4 of my series. Be sure to check out the Economic Religion playlist on my profile and subscribe so you can follow the rest. Doomsday cults rarely attract broad membership. By the same token, those 19th century religious cults that banned sex petered out because there was no one to carry on their beliefs in the next generation. In Twilight of the Money Gods, John Rapley writes, "Without believers, religions have no force." The same goes for schools of economics. Their strength comes from winning enough followers to shape the policy agenda of a society and remake it in its own image. Strength in numbers. The story of the rise of free market capitalism as a world religion is one of growing influence. Like any religion, this one spread by making converts and winning adherents. Unlike hard sciences like physics or biology, economics is cyclical. Scientific progress is made when new data forces course corrections. As new discoveries come to light, scientists adjust and incorporate them into the knowledge base. Free market economics does not work like that. Notes Rapley, "A given doctrine can rise, fall, then later rise again, much as happens with preachers who gather a congregation. A school rises by building a following among both politicians and the wider public." Laissez-faire economics, for example, had been the gold standard for decades leading up to the Great Depression. This economic philosophy of little or no government intervention in the economy, combined with tax cuts, would be very recognizable today because it was the Platonic ideal that the neoclassical and neoliberal economists wanted to return to. Ultra-wealthy banker Andrew Mellon was in charge of maintaining this dogma throughout the Roaring '20s. This hands-off approach was seen as part of the reason for the incredible rise of the American stock market during that period, which inspired one congressman to hail Mellon as the greatest Secretary of the Treasury since Alexander Hamilton. But Mellon was completely unequipped to deal with a crisis like the Great Depression. After the stock market collapsed in 1929, with unemployment surging past 20%, Mellon still didn't think the government should lift a finger to help anyone. His answer, according to Herbert Hoover's memoir, was to liquidate labor, liquidate stocks, liquidate the farmers, liquidate real estate, purge the rottenness out of the system. High cost of living and high living will come down. Enterprising people will pick up the wrecks from the less competent people. By enterprising people, Mellon clearly meant the rich. Letting everybody die so the rich can come in and pick our bones clean is pretty much the preferred answer proposed by laissez-faire and modern neoliberalism. Enter John Maynard Keynes. Lord Keynes was a wealthy British aristocrat who studied at Eton and Cambridge. Keynes ran with a highfalutin clique called the Bloomsbury set that included Virginia Woolf and E.M. Forster. Keynes was also the economist who saved capitalism after the Great Depression. Though Milton Friedman gets a lot of the glory as the 20th century's most important economist, in reality, capitalism might not have survived without Keynes. As economic collapse threatened to crush the entire capitalist system, it was Keynes who rescued capitalism from destruction. John Rapley likens Keynes to St. Paul, who helped create the New Testament in Christianity. Keynes created a new paradigm for capitalism. During a time when the Bolshevik Revolution was still a recent memory, it was Keynes who took capitalism in a bold new direction to save it from oblivion. Keynes realized that laissez-faire's hands-off approach, simply liquidating everything, wasn't a solution. He knew that if capitalism was going to survive, it would be necessary to take action. The way he saw it was this. During times of crisis, a capitalist economy's biggest problem was lack of demand. As people lost their jobs, nobody had any money to spend, so factories and shops sat empty. Keynes proposed that the government should be the spender of last resort. The way he saw it, budget deficits during a recession or depression could be a good thing, since the alternative was society's total immolation. As the only institution capable of printing money in a crisis, it was the government's job to prime the pump by blasting cash into the economy so people could spend it and bring demand back. During the Depression, governments had their backs against the wall. Politicians were desperate to try anything, so they glommed onto Keynes's ideas to get through the worst of it. And it worked. Keynesian policies were adopted first in the United States and Britain. It was these policies that inspired the Works Progress Administration and other hugely popular New Deal programs to help get the US through the darkest days of the Great Depression. It was military Keynesianism that finally delivered the knockout punch to the Depression in World War II. This vestige of Keynesianism still lives on today, seemingly untouchable, despite the free market's dominance everywhere else in the halls of US power. By the 1970s, Keynesian-style economics dominated pretty much every capitalist nation. It was during this period that Richard Nixon ruined Milton Friedman's day by admitting, "We are all Keynesians now." This post-war time period was also known as the Golden Age of capitalism. But things were about to change. Let's stop there for now. I realize some of these posts can get a little long if I'm not careful. Next up, we'll finish the story of the Keynesian Reformation and the rise of free market fundamentalism and the role communism played in bringing it about. You won't want to miss it. In the meantime, please like, follow, favorite, and subscribe to my free Substack, where you can get more detail in every post. Let us make them pay.